Hey, Care Partners. So great to see you again. Thanks for coming back. I'm Teresa Youngstrom with a Better Approach to Memory Care. And you just logged on to Memory Care with Teresa Youngstrom. And I'm so excited you're here. I've learned so much over the years about memory care and dementia and all the different aspects that there's always one more thing to talk about. Today, we wanted to delve into a topic that honestly, of the shorty videos I've put out there onto social media, the one that's probably gotten the most attention is when we talk about something called anosognosia. So we're going to talk about that today. Um, let's bring up the first slide. So I did an event several years ago. I probably wrote this. Confidence Instead of Chaos, one of my first events, PowerPoints that I've written over the years, and I've written a lot. And this was so popular. People really wanted to know, what do you do when the wheels are falling off? Because it can be really scary. Scary, not just for the family member who all of a sudden you don't know who this person is you're dealing with, but so scary for caregivers. And so I'm hoping that a lot of caregivers will watch this podcast and get some tools in their tool belt out of this. This was the thing that when I went to train with Teepa Snow, and most of you should know Teepa Snow by now. She's out of North Carolina, Positive Approach to Care. Teepa is fabulous, and she's really one of my mentors, and I've learned probably more from her than any other mentor. But when I went to train with Teepa as a nurse of several decades, one of the most important things she talked about was this thing called anosognosia. And I'm going to spell it for you, Anosognosia, for those of you that are listening on Spotify, because this was a game changer. And it really changed a lot about how I teach and train caregivers and family members. Because the first thing we have to know is, does this person have awareness? Are they tracking with us right now? And I've got a habit of putting up a picture of my sweet mama because I want to say what's going on here. Can you see the dementia? Because you can't. You can't. This was a pretty good day for my mom. You got a little bit of a smile there. Yeah, and I know there's a lot of resemblance. I look more like her all the time, which is really cool. But anyway, this was a pretty good day, and people wouldn't believe that she had dementia. Even, it took some family members a while to get on board. And some of you may feel like this with your loved one. No, 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 they don't have that. Because anosognosia is the inability to see the deficit. What? The inability to see the deficit. You mean they don't know they're sick? That's right. They don't know they're sick, and they strongly, adamantly will come up against you if you try and make something their fault. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So I just want to impress upon you that now, when I go in to do an assessment, one of the most important things, or if you're just going in to care for your loved one of the most important things you need to be aware of is, do they have awareness right now? Do they know where they are? Do they know who they are? Can they see their deficit? So let me just back up and talk to you about a few symptoms that I typically will see or have a family talk about when we're heading down this path of, gee, it's really possible that their loved one has anosognosia and can't see the deficit. So frequently we see someone who is in denial that they're sick. Doctors are wrong. Those doctors don't know anything. They're dumb as a rock. The testing is inaccurate. I'm just fine. They tell their doctor they're fine. They might be argumentative. They might be paranoid and suspicious. How about never wrong, always the victim? It's always your fault, never their fault. Does that sound like anybody you know or have cared for? I saw it a lot. And when Teepa mentioned the fact that some of these people that have brain failures, memory failures, some of these individuals, they know that they're declining, and you'll have a group over here that's scared and, honey, I'm losing it. I know I'm just not anymore, honey. I'm not. Stay with me. And they're frequently very clingy, and they're afraid, and they're sad, maybe depressed, tearful, depending on them and their personality and how they cope with things. But on the flip side is the paranoid suspicious, never wrong, always the victim, and it's all your blankety blank fault anyway. Okay, that's what I was seeing with my mom, and we need to figure out a plan on how to come alongside and help. Now, I'll have family members say, "Well, you just you can explain. You can talk to them and you can explain what's going on." But usually, guys, the logic part of the brain is gone. And so all your explaining is just going to get you in more hot water. And it certainly did for my poor father, who tried to explain for a couple of years. He was just in denial, did not want my mom to have this. And so he would try and explain to her a long time, and she would be very difficult, hateful at times, verbally abusive at times. My mom was a fabulous person, but guess what? When people have brain failure and they can't see the disease, if you push their buttons, you poke at them, whether it's verbally, definitely physically, you're going to get in trouble. But anyone can rear back with ugly statements, with accusations, with racial slurs, name calling, cussing, ugly words. And, what we don't want to do is push their buttons. Why would we do that? It's brain failure. I've said this before. If they've got a broken arm, you don't ask them, to do something that requires their arm, or a broken leg. You don't ask them to do something that requires their leg. So why do we ask questions and correct these folks? Why can't we come alongside and accept and agree and let them be right? Because usually it doesn't matter. But in that moment, do you think you can win an argument with someone with anosognosia? The answer is no. And I've had caregivers dig their heel in and say, "Well, sometimes you just got to give tough love." And it just breaks my heart, because they're not going to win. It's going to get ugly. They could get hurt. Someone could get hurt. Furniture might be broken. And why would we work that person up and get their limbic system all fired up, get the get them so angry that we're sharing ugly language and stuff, or maybe someone becomes physically aggressive. And so then what we do is throw medication at them. So put on the brakes right now. Let's back up. What is anosognosia? What is that? So what you need to know is it impairs the person's ability to understand and perceive his or her illness. You might know someone who has bipolar disorder. This is a good comparison. With bipolar disorder, you can take your medicine and frequently get back on top of your game if you're consistent and you get the right dosage, and we finally iron that out and you get back on top of your game and you're doing well. But what frequently happens to those individuals with bipolar disorder? What frequently happens? That's right. They stop taking their medicine. But why? That's the million-dollar question. Why? And I used to think, I guess they're just not that bright. I have to confess. I just thought, I guess they're not that sharp. Well, I was wrong, completely wrong. It's brain failure. It's a diagnosis. It's an additional diagnosis on top of the bipolar disorder, on top of the schizophrenia, on top of our dementia. Okay. So Teepa taught me that probably 50% of individuals who develop a dementia, remember there's a lot of them, more than 120 diagnoses can give us symptoms of dementia. Dementia is a collection of symptoms. Your mom will be different than mine. Your husband will be different. Okay. They're individuals. These are people. They're each on their own path and journey and their own disease, but they'll have different symptoms. But probably 50% of them develop this inability to see their disease, and it can complicate things, and you certainly need a new care plan. All right. So we see it with mental illness, severe mental illness, this anosognosia. We see it with bipolar. I told you that, schizophrenia, and also with dementia. Now, the thing is, in the morning when your mom's brain might be tracking a little better, maybe she's well rested, maybe her sugar's good, her blood pressure's good. There can be lots of factors that help us think better or not. Maybe she's comfortable that morning and she may be tracking with you and she maybe knows who you are and she's understanding some instruction. But at the same time, in the evening, then she wants to go home and she's in her own home. And you're suddenly seeing someone that doesn't know where they are, maybe doesn't even know who you are, or maybe she's looking for her parents who have been gone a long time. Well, put on the brakes and hit the pause button. That's not when you start orienting them to reality, to the current date, to who's alive and who's not alive. Big mistake, big, huge mistake. And I'm going to have my eyes wide open. My assessment skills coming in every time were now, are they aware? Are they not aware right now? Do they have awareness of who they are, who I am? You know, so it changes the way you assess these individuals. And I need you to have your radar on every time you come in. Be that detective. Please, can you be a detective and not a judge? Can you not automatically get angry with them and correct them, finger wag them down, and try and get them to think right? Guys, if they could think right, they already would be thinking right. Got it? If they could think right, they would. They're doing the best with what they have left. They're doing the best they can with what they have left. And if they could do any better, they just would. But I got news for you. You stirring them up and poking at them and finger wagging them down, correcting. Oh boy, drilling them with questions. Do you know my name? Do you remember my name? Do you remember my name? None of that is going to help them think any more clearly. Okay, none of that. And the thing is, at that moment when they're upset, they may have a physical need. They may need to go to the bathroom. They might be hungry, thirsty. They have a headache, you know? So that's really why this care partner job that you've accepted or not sure if you're going to accept or are delving into, this care partner job is really difficult. But there are lots of great techniques, lots of great tools for your tool belt on how you can come alongside and serve these individuals. All right. And I have faith in you that you can learn these things. But today, the focus is, can you come in with your radar on, being a good detective? And can you figure out, not by saying, do you remember your name? Do you know who you are? Just by having a conversation. I walked in one day and I said, hey, mama, it's me, Teresa. I approach from the front. I'm always telling you they lose peripheral vision. Approach from the front. My tone and body language was all good. Notified my face. I'm happy to be there. Right. And she immediately said, are my parents here yet? Wait, are my parents here? And she was worried. She was afraid. She was concerned. And that was no time for me to say, Mama, your parents been dead for 25 years. What are you thinking? That would be points off. Big mistake. Big, big, big mistake. And do you think if you just let her know that her parents are dead, that the rest of the day is going to go well? No, she's going to be grieving, crying. It's as if you just gave them this new information. Okay. So we don't need to bring up deaths in the family. We don't need to come in sharing any bad news. How about that? You know, I've sometimes have gone into communities where they're reading the newspaper or the news to the residents, and I want to hit the time out. What are we doing? You know, they don't need to know that a bridge collapsed and people died. They don't need to know that, you know, a flood came or whatever the tragedies are in the world. They're dealing with enough problems right now, guys, don't you think? No, no, no. I want to bring in some joy. We need to bring in some joy. It's really hard what they're going through. Teepa's so great about making the point that we need to come in with a smile on our face, introducing ourselves, making them feel comfortable. We get permission to touch. We don't touch too soon. What does that mean? It means I don't run in and hug you because you might be in a moment of not being sure where you are or what's going on. Maybe you didn't sleep great. And it's not right for me to force myself on you and touch you without permission. So we would follow a different technique of, you know, not touching too soon until you give me permission. But I'm going to make sure I've got a compliment already lined up to share with you. And so that I can bring a smile to your face first thing. Okay. We're not going to go over the list of all the agenda that I've prepared, including those toenails that need lots of work. Okay. No, no, no. Don't go there. Give them as little information as you need. I'm going to talk about the sunshine outside, the birds that are singing, the little bird nest we found outside we're going to have to keep watch on. What can you do to bring them a moment of joy? Okay? What can you do to bring them a moment of joy? That's where we need to be. So let's review a little bit. Where do we approach from? The front. That's right. Always the front. We don't startle people. That could get you punched. That could get something physical started that you didn't want. And honestly, their limbic system is just their fight, fright, flight, freeze is just very active. And so they would react, their body would be screaming assault, assault. And you who caused that? We did. But, they probably didn't mean to hurt you, but in that moment, they're just responding. And so reacting to the impulse that came in and their body saying they're being assaulted. So we approach from the front. We don't touch without permission. Okay. We definitely get permission. I introduced myself every time. I know she'd say, I know. But you know what? After a while, I would say when the wheels were falling off, my mom was super defensive and seemed to be angry about everything. And we didn't seem to be able to do anything right. She couldn't be corrected. She was throwing me out of the house. When I finally decided I needed to go see Teepa, and get some more training. Her dukes were up all the time. She was very defensive. Okay. And there's a season of putting all that to rest. Like it just doesn't automatically go away. I went to visit a lady last week who's pretty worked up. They've moved her. She has had a variety of different caregivers, okay, who had not been really trained great. She is uncomfortable. She has her back is hurting her. So she has a grocery cart full of things that are working against her right now. And so do you think she's defensive, never wrong, always the victim? Yeah, she is. But can we turn that around with good technique? With slowing things down, being more cooperative, making the day more what she wants to do. I mean, yeah, I know eventually we got to get that shower done, but they don't have to shower every day. Most people do not. Okay. They're not playing in the sandbox. And so we need to figure out how to bring some joy back to their life and get their dukes back down so that they're not defensive all the time. Okay. So we approach from the front. We're going to get permission to touch them. I want you to stop correcting them. I know it's so hard and so tempting, but I don't want you to keep correcting him. Okay. And the best thing we can do, a great tool for you to remember is say you're sorry. If nothing else, if nothing else comes to mind, you can say, wow, before you finger wag them down. Okay. I had no idea. I'm glad you told me. But you can also use I'm sorry. When you see them getting their feathers ruffled, the eyebrows are starting to furrow, you're getting the hairy eyeball. Okay, you can tell they're getting upset and you seem to be the one in the line of danger. So I hope that you'll see the warning, have your radar on that we're going in the wrong direction and pause. And I'm so sorry. What was I thinking? I shouldn't have come in so fast. I shouldn't have touched you without permission. What was I thinking? I'm so sorry. You know what? I came in too fast. Let me give you 15 minutes. I'm going to go get you some coffee. You like 2 sugars and 2 creamers? I'll get that. I'm very sorry, Mr. Brown. I'll be back. I'm very sorry. Take a break. And then see if you can back out and save the relationship. It's all about the relationship. It's all about the relationship. And if we blow it, if we damage the relationship to the point where then they don't want to be around us anymore, well, we've damaged the relationship. And it's all about relationship, guys. So let's think about the individual you're caring for. And you go in to see them tomorrow. You're going to have your radar on. You're going to be a great detective and you're going to think about, do they have awareness right now where they are? Or, because maybe they're talking about having to go to work that day and catching the bus, and the bus usually comes at 8:15. And if they're in a mode like that where they're moving on, okay, probably they don't know they've been retired for, 20 years and they haven't worked in that long. And so how do you redirect that? Oh, you need to get to work. Yeah, that's a great job. That job's been really good to you if you have that awareness, if you have that information. But somehow we're going to say, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, 8:15, we got enough time to grab some breakfast. Did you want the cereal or am I making eggs and bacon this morning?" I'm going to maybe give them an either or, see if I can bring them back my way, not be so headstrong on that desire to go do something that you and I both know is not accurate and is not happening and is in the past. They're living in the past right now. And it's okay. Don't strike out at them. Don't finger wag them down and correct them because that's not going to help you. They will dig their heel in. Some of you have seen it. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've been there with that heel dug in and you're going, "Uh-oh, screwed this up." Yeah. I remember coming in too fast one night. She said, "Teresa, shut up and sit down." Now, my mom was a wonderful, wonderful lady. But guess what? The filters come out for the people most familiar to them. Filters come out for the people most familiar. My poor father was most familiar. So we had to make sure that he got time away and that we had caregivers during her more difficult hours so that she wouldn't be so difficult with him. But I needed to mind my P's and Q's too. I can mess up. And I was rushing her. I wanted to get home too. And it didn't work. And so I needed to apologize, back up, sit down, wait 10 minutes, and then try my approach again, hoping I hadn't completely messed it up. And then she was great. And I asked her again for help that I needed a band aid. And they're probably in her bathroom. Well, honey, then take me back there. Music to my ears when I would hear those words. It would be success. All right, so let's go back to this picture for those of you that are watching the video. Can you see the dementia? Huh? Do you see it? No, not always, right? But now you've got a few more tools, right, to join them on the journey, be part of the solution, and not part of the problem. Listen, everywhere I go, every speaking event I go to, the majority of the room have never heard of anosognosia. Never. It's just, how can this be? How can this be? And so I'm going to keep spreading this around. And when people get this aha moment, they're like, "You are kidding me. They really don't know." No, they don't know. And usually they're on one side or the other. They're either very sad and they have awareness and they're depressed and clingy and just so sad. And then or some they're on the other side of the spectrum. "Get out of my blankety blank house. I'm a millionaire and I don't need you," which is what a woman told me one day when I went to see her. Okay, I had to have some good techniques in order to get in to see her. And we did eventually learn that she had pain. She was having pain. Okay. So thanks everybody for tuning in again. I hope you'll share this one. Anosognosia. People just don't understand this, and we need to. It's very important because you can't correct this. You can't finger wag it down, but you can learn new techniques to come alongside and love this person through their journey with dementia. You can learn new techniques, okay? It's not impossible. And I believe in you. I'm Teresa Youngstrom. You got this.